From the studios, election yard is here, and we need to talk about the Wisconsin Supreme Court election. So, in the spring, there are certain rites of passage that we have. You have the end of the basketball tournament. You have the Masters. You have trees beginning to bloom. And you have a Wisconsin Supreme Court election. That's what we have. And they're not every year, but they are most years. And there was one this year. And we have the result. And Chris Taylor, the liberal candidate, she has won her seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. The Wisconsin Supreme Court, which is officially nonpartisan, now has a 5-2 majority of liberal justices. So we will get more into what this all means. But first, we're going to take a look at the results. So at the time we recorded this video, we were at about 81% of the vote reporting, and Chris Taylor, the liberal, is at 60% of the vote. Maria Lazar, the conservative candidate, was at 40% of the vote. And looking at some of these county numbers, some of them, lower turnout, only 1.2 million votes, probably going to go a few 100,000 above that by the time we get to the final numbers when you see this. But some of these county numbers are just dire for the conservatives. And I can't really go any further than talking about Waukesha County first, because that should be a full-blown red alert for the Wisconsin GOP, if anything ever is. And why is that? You look at the numbers out of Waukesha. Lazar, 54%. Taylor, 46%. Donald Trump won this county by 20 points. Waukesha is to Wisconsin what Orange County used to be to California in decades past. It is GOP central in Wisconsin. Their election victories in Wisconsin run through Waukesha County. If you are a Republican or a conservative and you have any desire of winning a statewide race in Wisconsin, you probably need to be winning Waukesha by at least 20 points, if not more. And what do we have here? The Republican, the conservative, I know they're all technically nonpartisan races, so we'll say the conservative candidate, Lazar, she only won Waukesha by 8 points. Not only is that not going to get it done, that's just not good enough at all. Those are horrifyingly slim numbers for the GOP in Wisconsin there, in Waukesha County. Those numbers actually should alarm them. And I know we're talking about a spring election here, but a Republican candidate, a conservative candidate, whatever you want to call her, winning Waukesha by only 8 points, that is like a full-blown red alert for them. And I am dead serious. They should not be winning Waukesha County in the single digits. Because if Waukesha is in the single digits in the next statewide election, I guarantee you the Democrats going to win. Republicans need Waukesha. That's the kind of place they need to be running up the score. And they really did not do it tonight at all. And as we've also seen in Waukesha County, the mayor's race in Waukesha, the Democrats might very well win it. That one's going to come down to the wire, which would also be a big black eye for the GOP in Wisconsin. So Dane County, this is liberal central in Wisconsin. It's where Taylor's from. It's where Madison is. It is an extremely Democratic county. 84%. I don't know how you could possibly juice the margins any more than you already do as a liberal or as a Democrat in Dane County, but she's got 84% of the vote there. Milwaukee County, Taylor got about 73.6%. Kenosha County went for the liberal candidate Taylor, 58.6 to 41.4. So a pretty hefty win in Kenosha County. Ozaukee County, one of the wow counties, it's going blue. Taylor, 51.5% on the numbers that we have. So looking good there. Sheboygan County could come down to the wire, but Taylor right now, and by the time you see this, the final numbers might be different, but Taylor just a hair ahead of Lazar in Sheboygan County. Another one I want to highlight is Wood County. This is in central Wisconsin. Donald Trump won Wood County by 20 points. Taylor has won it by almost 4. So just up and down the state, there were just some really, really bad numbers for Lazar and really, really good numbers from Taylor. And this race was called by the AP, I believe, only about half an hour or so after the polls closed, because it was becoming obvious that not only was Taylor doing really well, but Taylor was outrunning Susan Crawford's margins from 2025. Now, Susan Crawford was the Liberal candidate who won the race in 2025 for the Wisconsin Supreme Court. She ended up winning that race by about 10 points. And it was becoming very, very obvious early in the night that Taylor was doing even better than Susan Crawford in a number of counties, especially in a lot of the counties that mattered. So it's really no surprise at all that they were able to call this race for Chris Taylor fairly early in the night. So, okay, let's pull it all back. Let's talk about what this means. So Chris Taylor, she has won her seat. Chris Taylor, definitely a progressive, as we have said. There's no two ways about it. She is a liberal. So the liberals now have a 5-2 majority on Wisconsin's Supreme Court. Wisconsin Supreme Court justices serve 10-year terms. So let's work through the math here of when the earliest opportunities are for the ideological majority on the court to change. So the next seat that's up is next year. That is Annette Ziegler. She is a conservative. She is not running for re-election. She just announced that last month. She is not running for re-election. So that is a conservative seat that is open. If the liberals end up winning that seat, God help the conservatives, because the liberals will have a 6-1 majority on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. By losing this race today, the conservatives have really put themselves in a bad position in Wisconsin, because now they're down 5-2. And actually, if you look at the list, 2 of the next 3 seats that are up for election are theirs. So really not many opportunities for them to cut into that. And like I said, God help them if they lose that election in 2027 with this Ziegler seat that comes open. Because if they lose that election, they are down 6-1. All right, so then let's look. 2028, Rebecca Dallett. She is a liberal. She is running, or we think she'll run. But that's a liberal seat in 2028. And then Brian Hagedorn in 2029. He's a conservative. So then you have Jill Karofsky. That seat, a liberal seat, comes up in 2030. And then Janet Protasevich, her seat comes up in 2033. So if they lose next year, the conservatives, if they lose the Ziegler seat, given what's happened today, they have to beat Rebecca Dallett, Jill Karofsky, and then Janet Protasevich in 3 elections while holding on to the Hagedorn seat in 2029. If all of those things happen, they will get the majority back on the Wisconsin Supreme Court in 2033. So the liberals took the majority in the court in 2023. If they lose the seat next year now, they are guaranteed to be in the minority on the court for a decade. So 2033 would be the next opportunity. And if not everything goes right, then you're looking now at a decade plus of a liberal court if they end up losing next year now. So if they end up holding the conservative seat next year, then the first possible opportunity they could flip the court back would be 2030, which is still 4 years away. So by losing this election today, I know this election didn't get a lot of play. This election didn't get a lot of notice. This election didn't get the national attention that some of the last few have. But Wisconsin now has a 5-2 liberal Supreme Court, and conservative seats are 2 out of the next 3 that are up. So conservatives don't really have a lot of opportunities to cut into that. So this is going to be a liberal court for at least the next 4 years. After 3 years of it being a liberal court, what we know for sure is this is going to be a liberal Wisconsin Supreme Court for at least the next 4 years. And depending on what happens next year, the situation could get even more favorable to them. So this election might not have gotten the notice that other past Wisconsin Supreme Court elections have. But there are very real consequences to that. The liberals are going to have this court in Wisconsin for a while now. And it doesn't look like they're going anywhere. Of course, you remember what happened last year. That was the race where Susan Crawford got elected and Elon Musk personally got involved in it. The liberal candidate ended up winning big, despite all of the national attention. Well, this one didn't have national attention, and the liberals won again anyway. So it is a liberal court. It is very much a liberal court. In fact, all 5 liberal justices on this court are female. So you have a female liberal court that is not going anywhere anytime soon. So it was a good night for liberals in Wisconsin. A good night then by extension for Democrats in Wisconsin. They're going to be running that Supreme Court for a good number of years now. And that's the way it is. You're an election yard. Like and subscribe. Follow us on social media. We'll see you soon.